Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today for what is hoping and promises to be a thought-provoking discussion on the challenges of reporting international events in an era of disinformation and media manipulation. This panel, titled Media as a Desirable Weapon in International Relations, is part of the Forward Media Festival, and it aims to provide us a unique opportunity to examine the evolving role of journalism and media in a world where information is increasingly weaponized. So in today's hyper-connected world, uncovering truth amidst propaganda and misinformation is definitely more challenging than ever. Do journalists recognize when they are being used as instruments of influence between nations? Are they prioritizing speed over accuracy? You're going to have a lot to say about that. Reporting on international politics has become a complex endeavor shaped by globalization and governments' varied approaches to media freedom. And together with our guests, we'll delve into whether journalism continues to seek the truth or if it has become entangled in information battles. Adding to this perspective, we'll be also as a business executive and as an editor, as a documentarist and a journalist, your unique perspectives to intersection of journalism, media, and international politics. And with that, let me introduce our panelists. It's Tao Klitgaard, director of the Danish media outlet Zetland, a digital publisher dedicated to journalism as a force of good. Then Polona Fiauš, she's a former Slovenian public broadcaster correspondent in Germany and now editor-in-chief of the RTV Media Slovenia news program. And Nikolaj Krastov, Bulgarian journalist, former Balkan correspondent. Just use the microphone, please.
I am, yes, maybe former Balkan correspondent, maybe also former post-Soviet correspondent. Now I working very well with Georgia, because you know that Georgia
yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Post-Soviet territory now is again, it's also interesting.
Yeah. And you are also author of several documentaries and an analyst with extensive...
For the Russia opposition, for the Marina Ovsyannikova.
An extensive experience in international journalism. Polona, I would like to start with you. Women first, or something. So, from your experience as a former correspondent in Germany, do you think, these are the questions that we will be asking and exploring tonight, do you think that reporting on international events today is more about uncovering truth, or is more about navigating a landscape of, narratives and whose narrative gonna win or not? What do you think?
I think that as a journalist, you first try to understand the official message that you're being given. The second thing is to read between the lines, and the third is to get to your own sources that you might have on topics that could be your colleagues, journalists, some members of think tank, of the opposition, whatever the opposition to those people is. And then at foremost, you're trying to tell the story so that you put the event into the story and into the context. And I think the highest goal as me as a correspondent from Germany was trying to understand what's happening and putting that into the perspective so that Slovenian people will understand. So what I was trying to do is not go into details, but try to do the whole picture. I think that today, when we are bombarded with the news, with bulletins from all over the place. It's the context that matters. So trying to focus on the context is the main focus, and it's the main goal. So trying to tell the story, put it in the context, and then you've achieved everything. And of course you have to look for a hidden agenda. For example, now in Germany we know, I don't know how similar that is in Denmark. I haven't been following that much and the news there anymore. But the narrative that every international event is being given at the moment, the focus of Europe and disregarding the so-called global south in every report, in every way, this Europe centralism is coming out of all of the news, of every sentence, of every word, of all the narratives. So trying to... The main goal now should be to try and focus more broader, I don't know how to explain this, to somehow go a little bit higher and get past this Europe centralism, Europe.
And offer some other perspectives
Yes.
as well. Just before we started this conversation, we discussed about the importance of being there, being as a correspondent in, I don't know, various countries, on battlefields. And you shared an interesting detail about going to the press conferences of former Chancellor Merkel. Now, you knew, as you said, that you wouldn't get a question, but still, please explain to the audience why it's important to be there. Because a lot of times things get lost in translation and you just get the perspectives from the people that have been there that not necessarily corresponds with how things were happening.
Yeah. So just to put it into a broader context, we were talking about how few journalists actually go to press conferences in Slovenia, how everybody is watching everything online if possible. And also, Forward Festival is being watched online rather than here, which is a shame because people are missing out a lot. And what I explained to Natasha before was that I went to almost every press conference of Angela Merkel and then Olaf Scholz later, because being there, you could never, as a Slovenian journalist, you could never ask a question. It was out of the question completely, unless the Slovenian Prime Minister was visiting, and then we had those 35 seconds of whatever, show lights. But anyway, so being there, looking at the mimics, looking at how Merkel, for example, looked at somebody that came. Did she look at him at all, or didn't she? Did she smile at him when, I don't know, when Macron was there, or I don't know who was there. I can't remember. Someone was there, and she was like basically hugging him with her eyes. You could see that, and these are the differences that you always miss out on if you are following things online, and that's why, like, we know how important it is to be somewhere, I don't know, to go to Ukraine, to go to Poland, to go to Bosnia, to experience these things. You don't have to be there every single time, but you have to be there sometimes to get the feeling about it. And it's, for journalists, it's the most important thing to be there, to be present, and not to follow things online and digest it already from somebody else.
Tau Setland is known for its innovative approach to journalism. You've just had an hour talking about that, but not everyone was listening to your discussion with Gash. But from your perspective as a media business executive, and she's former journalist, editor, you as a business executive, how important it is to develop media platforms with a user experience that not only informs but also tries to engage the audience, particularly in the context, of course, of the complex international conflicts.
So the short answer is I think it's pretty important because I think nowadays the story itself, has no value unless it's told in an engaging way. Again, the format of newspaper articles is very old, and if you read many newspapers, it's like there's the standard way of the news triangle, and you know how it is, but that's not what engages people. And again, I think finding the perspectives, finding the things that surprise, finding a different way of telling the story. Often it's not about the topic, it's more about, we're telling stories. And stories are wonderful because people respond to them, and that we can create images in people's heads, and we can introduce people who are interesting, and we can tell about, Merkel, she almost hugged him with her eyes. Wow, that's great. That's engaging to me. And it's not because I want to talk about Angela Merkel's feelings, but that's the reason why you are to that press conference, and I want to know that as a reader. So I think the content and the user experience, the mediation of the journalist and the distribution technology and the way that you tell the story, that is what gives the experience, and the experience is what creates value, not the story itself.
You focus on not the quantity but the quality, as you write on Zetland webpage. Just curious, you don't publish much, but out of, 10 stories that you publish, how many are connected with international news? Just curious. Is it like
that's a good
1/3?
Connected with?
Most it talks about international. Yeah, sure, of course. But still,
we cover broadly. We cover domestic affairs, international affairs. We also cover like inner life or stuff. So there will. But I will say that at least every week we have at least 2 or 3 stories that are specifically about, Georgia or floodings in Spain or...
Okay. And of course, another question from a curious person are these stories among the most watched, clicked, read?
They can be. But
okay.
but telling stories from the global south, like telling a really, really interesting and engaging and super important story about mining in Morocco. That is a little bit harder than a famous person in Denmark.
Same in Slovenia.
But it can be done, and I think once you, we always try. And again, I think everyone, hopefully, is try to kind of make it very clear, why is this story important? It's not, yes, I realize that you would say, I'm not interested in Morocco. I get that. But you should be interested in this story because it actually affects whatever.
Always trying to look for an audience's perspective.
Yes, because as a starting point, people are not, people don't walk around on the street saying, well, I'm super interested in Morocco. Well, some do, but most people don't. So you have to tell them, why is it important? Sometimes you even have to tell people, who is Angela Merkel? Why is it important to hear what she has to say? Well, because sometimes, your audience is 20 years old and they don't necessarily know who Angela Merkel is.
Nikolai, as I mentioned at the beginning, you have extensive experience in international correspondence, in reporting from troubled areas around places around the world. Do you think that journalists today are able to resist becoming participants in a broader propaganda and geopolitical agendas, or are we able to resist? Know how to resist? Are resisting?
It's a good question because it's many journalists who come being correspondent or special envoys on the territory when it's very, very hard in this moment. Maybe it's not so prepared to be on this place. It's not don't know how is geopolitical agenda. For example, in Georgia, many foreign correspondents don't understand that how is the Russian influence in there because it's pro-Russians or pro-Kremlin's party, Georgia Dreams, is cut relation with Kremlin. But behind that, you know that pro-Russian law, anti-genders law, also it's Russian steps for the political situation inside in the country. And I mean that if you send some correspondent on the one place, you must be prepared for a real correspondent or working with the source on the ground, because source is a very, for me especially, but I mean that's for the colleagues also, its source is a very important element to collect information in your work on the ground. I mean that disinformation is one side of what in this moment, because I speaking about that situation in Georgia. Many pro-government media now stopping to work. Journalists in pro-media governments stopping to work inside in this media and resignated from this place because he don't lie, stop lying in this moment. And this is very important to work in this crucial place when you see that how systems working, not media system, but social system how working.
Mm-hmm. A question for all of you. Recently, we've witnessed an incident, a highly publicized one. Fans attacking each other, the soccer game between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam, where conflicting narratives came out from, on one side, it's anti-Semitism, and the other side, no, not even close. It was just hooligans who provoked fans for cheering for the other soccer team. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on, okay, first, since you're in Denmark, you're the closest. You were the closest to the incident. How did you cover? Did you cover that?
Yes, we did cover it, but we did not cover it on the evening, and we did also not cover it on the morning after it happened. We did cover it later, which means that we were not caught actually in that situation, because it turned out that it was uncovered. Once people start, asking some questions, it turned out that the story was different than the story that was told on the evening itself. And it's a good example of sometimes media just goes into some kind of crazy spin. Again, I will say it's not only the media, that's also what social media does. But the speed of the feeling that we have to report everything just as fast as Facebook reports it, I believe is a big problem for us, because we have to be better than Facebook, and we are better than Facebook. But we cannot be better than Facebook if we have to do it in 2 minutes or 10 minutes. That's not fair.
5 minutes after something happened, when you still don't have facts.
You have to.
You know nothing.
I mean, we're journalists. We have to call sources. Maybe we even have to travel to Amsterdam, or I don't know. We have to do our work, and that's not possible to do in 5 minutes.
Polona, what do you think? How can journalists and the media, outlets ensure that they report critically and without becoming sort of, unwitting participants in some other stories?
We actually had a big problem with this, and there were also a lot of complaints, because this was
Tell
Saturday.
us more about.
Let me reveal all our troubles. No, but on Sunday we had this program that's 15 minutes for a news weekly summary or something like that, and the person doing that included the first messages that came from Amsterdam, and that was hooligans, or not even hooligans, that the football fans were provoked, kind of. And so it was, and then there was, everything was revealed later on Sunday and Monday, and In this case, it was very difficult because there were the reports were very opposite from all the sides. And we all know very well that football is political. You cannot say the football fans are just hooligans. It's political. It always is. Football clubs are political. Everything is political about football, and you have to take that into consideration. And that football fans exploit the political situations. And this was maybe not taken into consideration enough. So as soon as the reliable sources were confirming what was happening there, that they confirmed that those fans were provoked, that they were provoking this group and that group was doing that thing. And as soon as that was confirmed, and that was, I think, Sunday evening, Monday morning, then we started reporting about it seriously and did a bigger report a couple of days later with someone who explained what was going on in football clubs, Israel, Palestine, everything all together in society, and why we didn't report about it correctly. So that's how we tried to repair the damage that we did on Sunday evening and made the viewers aware of the broader situation, and that's crucial. So I completely agree with you. You don't have to be the first, but you have to be thorough when you finally do it.
Because that is probably one of the things why public trust in the media is eroding. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's just a small comment or idea. Sometimes what we do, because we realize this, that people, when something happens, when they see it on Facebook, hopefully, and still, yes, they come to us to say what is actually going on here. And something that we are doing sometimes is that we will just put a small, it's not even an article, but just a small box on our front page saying, yes, we saw it, we are investigating. We are trying to figure out what's going on. We have nothing to say yet, but we are aware, so it doesn't feel like we are completely not there. But and those small messages, people take screenshots and put them on. That's wonderful ads for us always when that happens.
Yeah, good one. Nikolai, your thoughts as a seasoned journalist, you saw, about the incident, right?
Now I see that politicians or maybe some group of interests using that sports events about the provocation. You remember that? Maybe do you remember that in Berlin, match between Germany and Turkey, and you remember that how big chaos been in German capital after that, and we see that. Turkish fans who lived in Germany, how many destroys making in this situation, and that is before the visiting of Turkish president in Germany. That is a very sensitive question. It's a group of interests using some events, not only sport, but sport is very very high in this priority. Culture also is its element when politicians or this group maybe using to make some provocation, make some problems between people from another ethnical moments, ethnical groups in this situation. And I mean that's our role of journalism. It's good explain who is this not only group of interests, but why it's didn't in this moment. Why it's happened? What is the geopolitical agenda? Because when many times when coming that Turkish president, for example, in Germany, say we want language school on Turkish language. We want some rights for our people who living in Germany. And I not say that Turkish provocate Western world, but Turkish now explain that's maybe how I say that's right of Muslim minority in Germany is not very very, very good in this situation. And that I say that some people, some group of interests organize and making some troubles if you understand that well. What I say, that situation is not very well. But role of journalism is there, that explain, that show what's happened behind that one event.
Mm. You all. My understanding is that advocate for, taking a deep breath first and then try to report or see how things stand. Are you on social media? What's your stance on social media or being present as media personalities, as people with experience, as people with something to say?
As a person or as a
person,
as a company?
Yeah.
Am I present at social media?
Do you like it? Do you publish
very
on
much
it?
so, and I don't like myself when I am that. Also because my favorite two social medias are TikTok and LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, it's the bragging thing that works. And on TikTok is probably, I really like TikTok because it's the first...
bragging as well.
But it's the first social media where I can really... That feels like it's plastic. So I can... One day I'm a, football fan because I'm watching with my son. The next day I'm a music fan because I'm, that's interesting. And so yes, I'm there. But the fast-paced commenting is not something that I participate in. I do see it actually, on the other hand, as a something that is important for Zetland, because TikTok especially is a great way to engage with a younger audience, and we find that when we post videos about something that is current or something that is even if it's the Israel-Palestina conflict, which is very hard to debate on any where, we feel that actually there is among all the, you're just Israeli supporter, or you just love Hamas, and all these crazy things that people will write. Well, they're actually questions. And then what we do is that we take those questions and we make videos out of them. So we don't engage in the comment section, but then we say, okay, I'm a journalist, and now I will debunk what happened in the comment section yesterday. Those formats I really like, because that's actually interaction. That's actually engaging, but it's still journalist. Like, I'm a journalist, and I, this is what we know today. All the other things, it might be true, but we don't know it. And I can say that because I actually am a journalist, and this is what journalists do. It's a wonderful way to tell 19-year-olds who don't know what a newspaper is. Here's actually what it means when I say I'm a journalist.
Polona, more social media or less, please?
I think that we are very afraid of social media still, that we don't know how to engage, that we want to be politically correct, whatever that means, as a journalist, as an editor, as a news house, and that we are still searching in ways how to use them better and into our advance. So we know that we cannot live without social media anymore. Public media will not survive, TV will not survive, radio probably more chances, but still not survive without the social media, without being there, without making a stance there. And we're still far behind, I think, because of not having all the knowledge or all the tools. Maybe we're not bold enough, as you are, put all the questions together and make something out of it. It's I think we are lagging far behind, and there is a big gap that we still have to close very soon, because we've lost a lot of what's the word in I have the German word but not the English one.
Just say it.
Aufmerksamkeit.
Okay.
Attention, thank you.
Nicole, your thoughts about it? Social media covering international events, a weapon in the hands of journalists or a liability?
It depends, because you have social media who work very professional, but more media is a social media is not so professional. I using some media like element of informated. Everyone check all information, because if you are a professional journalist, you must be fact checking all information. Maybe if you have some geopolitical information, maybe you have some information about what's happening in the one territory, one state. It's very important using every information, but after that you must be checking this information. For me, it's not a problem with the social media. Social media is an element for me, not the crucial element, but many people using every information, not fact-checking information, not real information. This is a very big problem about the media, because social media, if you're not checking this information, it's like element to spread disinformation on many elements of the society. For example, for the ethnic society, one that's elements for crucial between some ethnical group is very delicate and making troubles. For example, like between Serb and Kosovars on Kosovo. I've been in Kosovo 20 years ago when starting one big, how I say, that's element of cleansing operation in Kosovo. Many Serbs and Rome groups must be go on from Kosovo, because Albanians accuse Serbians and start one big troubles in this moment. And I remember that everyone starting from the one fake news. Serbian, it's accused of the kill one Albanian child. In the end, this is not real, but starting this process of ethnic cleansing from the North Kosovo. This is one element, how it's this media is not a stable element in the media section generally, if you say. But if you're a professional journalist, you just show and you just understand, you just checking for your source, is it real or not real. I remember that my colleague from Sofia sent me in Kosovo in this moment to say what's happened in north part of Kosovo. This is a very big element. I explained him that it's not real, that's not a big problem, but my bosses from Sofia say, no, you must be go to the North Kosovo. And I remember that if you're not believing you're a journalist on the ground, it's not good, because your journalist on the ground must be know what's happened on some territory when you cover it.
Let's go to the crisis that is going on in Gaza, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the war. In covering Poluna crisis like that, how can the public broadcaster navigate such a sensitive environment when every criticism of Israeli actions is branded as anti-Semitism? And how can you navigate that landscape, still providing, factual reporting, balanced reporting?
To repeat again and again that what is happening there is a crime against humanity. It's not that much important in. No, this is gonna come out wrong. So we have.
It's live on TV, so.
Yeah. So there is no going back. So it's important to point out who is the aggressor at the moment. It's always important to report on what caused the situation at the moment. But it is important to say it again and again. Who is the aggressor? Who is the victim?
Did you have any editorial meetings especially for this crisis? How to address things?
We didn't have a common meeting. We had it with the foreign, like the people that report about it, and especially with our correspondent from the area, from the Middle East area. So there were some words that we agreed on. We had like some discussions. We didn't have enough, and we regretted that later, because it has to be very clear what words to use. And
could you share them with us?
Sorry?
No? Could you share the words with us?
Well, it was who is the aggressor? What is the terrorist organization? Genocide. Can you use the word genocide or not? From which point on? Who has to say it first in order for us to use it as well? I think we didn't discuss this enough. Public is very sensitive, and of course there are always people and organizations and groups that are going to use it against you, however you say it. So it's a very sensitive reporting. We did have our senior journalists reporting about it more than younger people who have experience, who actually know what is going on, who have been to the area prior to the first Hamas attack and then the retaliation from Israel. And we are lucky in a way that public here doesn't understand citing the aggressor in this case as being anti-Semitic, because it has nothing to do with that.
But was it covering the war? Is it a sensitive issue?
Yeah, of course, yes.
And
not as much as in Germany, obviously. But
yeah. From a perspective of a media executive, when on one side you have a country like Israel, which is a very influential one, we've seen cases in the United States and around the world that whoever criticized or used a narrative that didn't fit with the official Israeli narrative lost their jobs, lost their funding. As a media executive, is this something that goes through your mind or not really?
What goes through my mind is that this is a conflict, and it's, to be honest, it's the only conflict I can think of that is that sensitive right now, where I'm not worried about losing any funding
like
or pissing politicians off.
Mm-hmm.
It's not important to me, luckily, because we are free and independent. But of course, we do not want to lose our members, because we are our members. We are there for our members, and our members are very polarized in this question. So it is a very hard thing for us, because we're very much about community. We're doing this together, but in this situation, there is no such thing as togetherness. Not even in small and hyggelige Denmark.
Not everyone on the same side. I mean,
no.
why should they be?
So what we are lucky in the sense that we don't tell people that we will report on everything that happens in Gaza. And when I say we're lucky about that, it's because we did. That's not what we promised. That's not what we do. So what we're doing, for instance, is we're seeing ourselves more as a magazine, because we know that this is a conflict that escalates or moves from day to day, and we're not a day-to-day media. We will tell people the most general things and when the most important things happen. But then, for instance, one thing I remember we did was that we actually produced a long, I think 4 or 5 episode series about the word and the meaning and the way that when and how can you call something a genocide. So we took something that's something we're talking about that is a current thing, and then let's deep dive into that, because we're giving people something to talk about. As I often say, during the morning coffee in the office, they will talk about what happened last night in Gaza, but then maybe and hopefully, I think, over lunch, they can discuss what does genocide actually mean, and why is it that we can't agree whether this is a genocide or not, and what's the perspective and the analysis on that. And I think to be honest, sometimes those discussions are the discussions that make people understand the world and make them smarter.
Can I just
add
on something, because it just occurred to me that we had almost a rule. It was not a rule because we don't have rules like that, but that no news can go out because we are daily news. So 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7, 10 o'clock in the evening can go out without a short news at least of the situation in Gaza, because we are witnessing a genocide in front of our own eyes, and we want people to know that we did report about it. At least that's what we can do. That's our profession in every single day, in every single news that we broadcast it.
Thank you. Yeah. Nikolai, and you are the one covering the situation in Georgia quite closely, the protests. It's been in the media a lot lately as well. Could you talk to us about what role did the public media play there in spreading disinformation or doing what they should be?
In case of Georgia, public media is under control of the government, under control of Bidzina Ivanishvili, who is the former leader of Georgia Dream. And public television in Georgia, it's in very specific situation because sharing some information which is anti-protest information in this moment. I remember that 1 week ago when I've been in Georgia, I see that people go in the 3 lines of the protest. One line is against the public television, the office of public television. And I remember that chief of editor coming in the front of the building and say, "What you want? We are journalists. We informated, but yes, but you informated on the one side, pro-government side." And after that, starting some problem because it's protesters want to entry inside in the television and have some physical problem. And I remember that in the end have one opportunity for interview with President Zurabishvili. In the end of this situation, chief of television say, yes, we organize interview for the first time after the elections 1 month ago in the end of October. We organize interview with the President Zurabishvili. Why? Because it's now situation it's very delicate. Why you not give chance of the president say why I supporting it protester is in Georgia, and that's I mean that official media in Georgia is not a very good element for informated make some troubles in the society because translated messages from the Georgia's leaders on this moment and make for me making elements for the confrontation inside in society in Georgia and supporting maybe after the political change in Georgia. I believe that's in the future. I don't like it problems and conflicts, but maybe if you analyze what's happening in Georgia, I mean that first work must be take new leadership in Georgians public television and radio because sharing is not good information in this moment. And this is my answers.
We'll slowly give the floor to the questions from the audience as well, but before we do that, I would like to touch one other thing with you, and we can't pass him by or go on without mentioning him, Elon Musk. I do apologize in advance. Polona, legacy media are often accused of being propaganda machines serving specific agendas rather than being gatekeepers of truth. Now, Elon Musk, I believe he recently said in his Twitter or X, you are the media now emphasizing the power of individuals over traditional media. Now, how does a public broadcaster like RTV adapt to this shift, and how can, in your opinion, technologies reinforce trust and credibility in journalism and legacy traditional media? Why is he wrong?
I think that everybody is a journalist. Means that everybody has the right to their own truth. But as there might be many truths in the world, there are people who know the business, so who are the media people, and they know how to check the many truths and get out the, I don't know, can we call it the real truth? I don't know, it's a bit dogmatic, but and we see that whenever there is a big conflict, whenever people don't know what to think of the situation, they always turn to the public media. And that's so in Germany, and that is so in Slovenia still. We see that after the elections in the States, more people will watch TV Slovenia than will watch any other outlets, because so there is still distrust engraved in people's hearts, souls, whatever, brains, that there is professional editorial mind that will bring out the things that are important. Because the thing about the truth is not that it is not true, it's just pointing out to the wrong part of the truth. And I think in this sense, there is still enough trust in the public media. When it comes to other, probably artificial intelligence, I don't know if that's what you were referring to.
Oh, also artificial intelligence, new technology, new tools that we can use.
I was really surprised. I was in Finland a few weeks ago at their public media, and they don't have a problem at all with using AI at all. So they use it all the time. They use ChatGPT to write the reports, to find out things. Of course, it's not about facts. It's about a tool that brings out the different points of the same story. We are very conservative when it comes to this. We don't even consider it as a tool yet. That's how far behind we're here as well. Very, very cautious, and I think there are also big steps to be made in this direction. I don't know how do you go about with this, but for us it's like there is this big monster waiting for our data to put in, and then they're gonna eat it all up, and us as well. So.
It's such a. I mean, we could talk a whole day about that question. I think one perspective that gives me hope for journalism, because what we're selling is trust, and we need to figure out how do you build trust. Like once upon a time, we did it by saying we are the public broadcaster of Slovenia. That created trust in itself. That will change, and it is changing. But I think when it comes to AI and the flooding of quantity that is already happening, what makes me, on my positive days, here's how I see it, and there are negative days, but on the positive days, what will happen is that it will become obvious to everyone that you cannot trust basically anything. And that's very, very sad, but that is what will happen and what is happening. So you cannot trust anything just on the surface. Now, what happens if you cannot do that? Well, then you hopefully become very aware that you have to, that what you read and see is not necessarily the truth, which means you have to seek out sources. That is, what's the English word, like source critique. Like that is what we are, at least in Denmark, teaching kids in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. Don't just trust anything that you find on the internet. And that is really a big challenge for us as enlightened societies and democratic societies. We need to educate people about source critique much more. And I think actually that the flooding of quantity of journalism will actually help us, because it becomes obvious that you cannot trust anything. So you have to figure out, okay, I trust Zetland. I'm a person who trusts Zetland. Okay, well then I go to Zetland, because I cannot trust what I see on Facebook. Nowadays, people will say, yeah, well, it's probably true what happens. I think that is changing now. And that is the positive story, that it will help us, because the value proposition that we have as journalists who fact-check things and are actually telling you the best possible version of the truth, well, that value becomes clearer when the quantity is flooding us.
So you are saying, if your mom says she loves you, verify it. It's something.
I can't even. It's so sad, but yes, I guess that is what I'm saying.
I've heard from some media academics, like about the importance of verifying the sources.
I mean, I trust that you are who you say you are, but I wouldn't trust that if I was watching you on TikTok.
Yeah. One more thing, Tao. When you started Zetland, how many years ago was it?
9 years ago, we started building it.
Okay. How, when you were having these meetings of what kind of media would you like to have, there were probably at the back of your mind some frustrations with traditional media. Which one? No, okay, so tell me about it. Which ones were, and how were you aiming to address them?
Well, I think, lots of format things, but I think, we saw pretty clearly that in-depth quality long-form journalism is dying in the ad supported fast news cycle that is digital journalism, or that was digital journalism in 2015. That is the type of journalism that we love. That is, it's also subjective. Like it's just that's what we like, and that is dying. So we need to do something about that. There's like, when something big happens, you have 17 newspapers in Denmark who are all writing the same article. That's stupid. Let's do something different. Let's stand out. Let's do something different. Let's tell the deep, good stories, and then do it 3 days later. But in Denmark, the problem isn't that there isn't enough quality journalism. There's awesome journalism in Denmark, and most of it is actually true and fact-check, and it's great. But what is missing is telling the stories in engaging ways, telling the stories in ways that people do not get apathetic, do not get do not turn into news avoiders, which is a big problem, because you're telling them these sad stories, and you're telling them in these ways where you kind of have to. If I'm a 20-year-old in Denmark, I don't even know that Georgia is a country. You have to basically start there and tell them why are we telling you this story, and why is it actually important to you? Because I agree, it is important to you. And
say it in a respectful way, not you stupid ones who don't know about Georgia.
There was once a guy a young guy who told us. He said, when I consume the news, it's like I'm watching the second half of a soccer game. And I didn't watch the first half, and nobody told me what's even the score, and who are even playing. They're just putting me into the game in second half and expect me to understand and enjoy the match. And I think that was a pretty good way of seeing, trying to follow the news, because there's so much. It's not possible.
Almost an hour has passed by. We have a couple minutes left for your questions, or not. Exactly 7, Gasper is saying. So 7 minutes starting now. Does anyone have questions for... Okay, please. I think I will have to... Yeah. Oh.
I'll be short. You mentioned before reliable sources. So I want to ask you, what are your reliable sources when reporting about international things, like from the states where you don't have journalists on the field? Because we all know, and we talked about that also in Kran with Nikolai, that there are less and less correspondents on the field in many media. So I want to know which sources do you trust?
That's for the journalists.
And maybe, Tao, you said for the journalists, but how present are you on the field with your journalists?
Okay, I'll begin. Not very present, and it's something that we are constantly trying. I mean, we're probably not going to have a Middle East correspondent, but we do, travel there. But it's also about, we're Copenhagen-based. We need to go to Jutland. We need to be, because I completely agree. Like it is a major pillar of journalism to be there and be the eyes and ears of the public. So we are in many ways leeching on other ears and eyes, which I don't necessarily always see as a bad thing, because we cannot be, 1,000 correspondents, everywhere. So we kind of have to pool our resources, I think. We're there in Copenhagen, if anyone.
Does anyone else have a question for our guests?
Okay, we are also trying to have correspondence, as many as possible, but as every other news media, we have the agencies that report about it. Me as a journalist on the field, like also reporting from Germany, you have the official PR responses. It's always good to, with the sources, it's always good to know what standpoint they're reporting from. So if there is an American reporter reporting about the stuff, so it's from their perspective, and you have to take that into consideration. If there is someone who is critical, who is not, if there are some non-governmental analysts, I don't know, as a reporter, you kind of have to work on it very intensely in the first few months, me in Germany, for example, to get your own sources or to get people that you trust completely, that they have not trust in that you believe in everything they say, but that they have enough knowledge to kind of evaluate the situation in broader sense and give you all the information that you are missing when reporting about some stuff. So many whys. But why would they? But why would he? But why? So that's important to get. And then you get different perspective, and I don't know, then you use your experience and put together the story that you think is more reliable than any other.
Nikolai, you wanted to add?
Especially working with my sources in every state, every territory when I cover, when I'm working. I have contacts with people who are journalists, our colleagues, but colleagues who very good understand that situation, not only political situation, economically situation, because if you are a correspondent, you must be cover all issues in the one country. In situation in Georgia, for example, when I starting to cover this country, I don't have sources, but I find it when I go on the ground, and I think that you must trust to sources. Sources, whether it's independent journalists, maybe some guys from the NGO sectors, who is leader of the popular opinion on this situation. For me, so working with the source is crucial for the correspondents to work in this moment.
Any other question? No? Yeah.
Hi. I'd like to pose questions to two panelists, and I'd like to refer to the title of the round table. I think it would be good to come back to the original idea. And I'd like to use two concrete examples I think would be useful. The first question would be for the moderator. When you were a correspondent from the United States, in 2008 you had an interview with George W. Bush, and in the end, so this was 5 years after the invasion of Iraq and the destruction of the country and the region, you wished him a heavenly stay in Slovenia. And I'd like to ask you, now in retrospect, I mean, would you consider this rhetorical detail or device as a form of legitimation of this concrete politician?
As a form
as
of
a
what?
form of legitimation of this politician and his actions? And I'd like to ask the editor of the information program, the public television, about the reporting on the question of Palestine. You talked about this, and you were critical of your own reporting, which I applaud and support. But the public television daily frames the conflict between, on the one hand, the Israeli army, and on the other, the so-called extreme organizations, Hamas and Hezbollah. And I would like for you to touch upon this framing. So using this label of extreme organization on the one hand, and on the other, not using any kind of label for the Israeli military. I mean, does this framing pose a problem to you? Do you feel it's a problem?
Okay, let me start. Thank you for listening to the interview very closely, including the end of it. I don't know why I would be assuming by saying have a heavenly stay in Slovenia, assuming that I would be legitimizing him. He was legitimately elected President of the United States. I had the opportunity to interview him. At the moment, the only Slovenian journalist to have one-on-one with US President. So I understand at that time I was faced with some criticism regarding why did you take it, why didn't you ask him this and that. As Polona probably knows how many minutes you have when you are presented with opportunity like that. You have questions that you could be talking for 3 days with a president of the United States. I had, I think, 10 minutes at that time. It's not my job, was not my job as a correspondent from the US to legitimize a president of this or the other country, but ask him questions that we agreed upon, and that was it.
About the other question, that is a very sensitive one as well. I think that we follow the general, how do you call it? The general, merit, the general narrative, the general. So the Israeli, if I understand correctly, the Israeli government, we call it Israeli government. And when it comes to Hamas organization, we call it a terrorist organization. So that's what you were asking, right?
I'm pointing out the different, the labeling of the one side and the not labeling of the other. Like the qualification of one side and non-qualification of the other.
Okay, but we all know who Israeli government is, right? So, and if there is an organization, we label it. If there is an organization like UN, or we call it a humanitarian organization, we call it a terrorist organization. So organizations you do label, and governments you don't. Okay, the honest answer is because that's the easy way. And we all do it. That's the easy answer. I'm sure it's not a satisfying one, but I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to get out of this now, but I'm not an expert on Israel and Hamas and Palestine, but I believe that we did the right thing here, trying to explain in many other words, in many other situations, the situation there, and that we made it clear, we informed people about all the aspects, about everything, and that, I don't know, maybe we didn't think about labeling enough. As I said, probably because it's the easy way. We all label it the same way, and that's the easiest way.
Not to privatize the discussion, I'll be very brief, and this will be my ending. I mean, the BBC, and I'm very critical about the BBC's reporting on various subjects, especially on this one, but the BBC came out officially against labeling organizations as terrorists, saying that, and that's the editorial stance, saying that this puts the media on one side against the other. And it's a political term, and the media uses it only when it's quoting somebody as saying it, not like the television of Slovenia is using it.
Yeah, I'm aware of this BBC rule that they're not labeling things. We still do. I'm aware of the fact, and thank you for pointing it out.
Thank you very much for your questions. Our time is up. Dear guests, thank you for being part of the Forward Festival and for sharing with us your thoughts and your experiences on the matter discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hvala vsem za udeležbo tudi na tem dogodku. Zdaj pa nas čaka še vrhunec festivala, podelitev novinarskih nagrad Čuvaj Watchdog ob 9. v malo večjem delu Narodne galerije. Vabljeni. Thank you again.